Yo, it's Chance the Rapper, and you tuned into Rolling Out.
How's it feel, man? You just dropped a new album today. Like, what's going on? Tell me, what are the feelings like right now?
It's a good feeling to publish works because the way that I create, I feel like I'm working on something till it's out.
Yes.
I don't always feel like it's not very often that I finish a song and then later it just drops. Like, no matter what, even if I feel like it's all the way done, before I put it out, there's some kind of changes that are gonna happen to it. And now that it's out and it's in the world, it just feels realer. And there's a pride that I have in the fact that it can't be changed anymore. It's also like I've done this a million times before, but because it's been so long since I dropped a project, it also feels a little bit new. Just going back to like having to watch people, I've lived with these songs for about some of them up to 6 years, So to me, I know all the intricacies of them, and so watching people slowly like catch on to certain lines or certain references or certain callbacks or whatever is really fun to watch.
It feels like the rollout has been going on for like the last 2 years. Was that extremely intentional?
Yeah. The truth is, like, I'm still an independent artist, and the space for promotion and for conversation is limited. And so continuing to stay in the conversation is a labor itself. And I think that with what I was working on, I felt like I had to give as much pretense and context as possible.
Yeah, so I gotta say, I love the album. I've been listening to it all day.
Thank you, man.
And there's some tracks that stand out that I wanted to touch base on. And the first one is No More Old Men.
Yeah.
What's going on with that track?
That's my favorite record on the album. Today, I mean, it changes every day, but today is my favorite song on the album. It's really a contemplation over, like, it's one of the many conversations on the project about mortality. And a lot of the songs touch on it or deal with it in different ways. But my cousin Nikki had a poem years ago, I think it's called The Day with No Grandfathers, that inspired the piece. And she just spoke about how, life expectancy for so many black men, especially in Chicago, and even young black men, especially in Chicago, so low, and how with there being so many young fathers that end up murdered, that there will be a day, the poem is kind of like ruminates on the day that there will be no grandfathers and how there's no catch in the park and there's no this and no color. And it's really a descriptive, beautiful piece that, inspired the song years ago. And it just took me a long time to get it across how I wanted it to. But yeah, the first verse reminisces in a really like intentionally visually descriptive way what the barbershop was like for me growing up. So I used to go to Harper's Barbershop on 87th and Stony. There's an older man named Mr. Harper that owned it, and it's a bunch of younger barbers, younger than my dad, but obviously older than me, and they're just living. And in that living, I learned a lot of the most important lessons of boyhood that you can learn. And that's a lot of people's experience, but it celebrates the barbershop as the space for entrepreneurship, whether it's like the bootleg man coming in or, the barbers that are paying rent, or or just conversations about the world around us that really shaped me and shapes a lot of young black men. Like, going to the barbershop with your dad, if you're lucky enough to have your dad in your life, is like a very, very formative part of life. And I talk about all the joys of it before, devolving into the fact that, a lot of these old men aren't around anymore, and some of even the younger, older men were passed away from health complications or whatever. In the second verse, I talk about my dad's friends and how we used to go to my Uncle Joe's house to go watch Floyd fights, and you know how they smoke cigars and play cards, and just like they it was a certain kind and style of family that I was around that I again learned a lot of lessons from, and speaks on some of their dynamics, the fact that a lot of them were, you know, separated but still married and living in the same houses.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But like the idea behind that being that, you know, if I get sick or if you get sick, we're not alone.
That's
when
right.
that happens. And it's just like, it's not necessarily saying that any of these behaviors were right or wrong, but this is what we raised on. And it culminates with my favorite part of it, the 4 Black Commandments.
Yes.
There's this motif throughout the whole project of like Moses when he goes to the mountaintop. And in the Bible, Moses has this transformative moment where he goes up to the mountain and he becomes what's called shown. And so God reveals himself to Moses in a way that he hasn't revealed himself to any human. And when Moses comes down to the mountain, God has impressed himself upon Moses. So he comes down the mountain and he goes to talk to the people and reveal God's message, and they all start shrieking because there's a literal light coming from his face and it blinds them. And they all scream and ask Moses to cover his face, and it's because he's shown. And I feel like a lot of the lessons that I learned in the past 6 years was my own like trip to the mountaintop and my time to come back and express these lessons. And so I think one of those moments in the album when I reveal these 4 Black Commandments of watch your health, that's your wealth, watch your brother, that's yourself, watch your home, that's your door, and if they want it, we go to war.
Yeah.
Like those are the lessons of manhood that I picked up. And it finishes off by saying like, you know, in a distant future, in the twilight of our lives, it contains all the laughs and highlights of our lives. So I've come from a generation that doesn't even necessarily glorify going into old age, but I have to believe from my childhood that that's the goal, is to make it to be that old.
To see your head turn white. Yeah.
Fact.
Yeah. I love that, definitely. No, this is perfect. I had no idea, I shared with you earlier, I had no idea that the album would be so emotional. And I think it's The Speed of Life where the brother's screaming. He's like, I don't want to cry.
Yeah.
I don't want to cry.
Yeah.
But he's saying that, and I want to cry.
Yeah, when you hear it.
It feels like this growth, that this mountaintop trip you took like Moses, like, it feels like you've deposited that experience into this entire project. Would I be correct in saying that?
100%. This was a whole bunch of experiences, good or bad. I won't even say bad. I don't think I had any bad experiences. I've just been living. And I think sometimes when you feel, even if you feel a heavy emotion, there's this sense of like, sometimes you feel weary. You feel a little weary because you feel so much. But feeling is like the number one sign of life.
Yes.
And so I'm, grateful for all the experiences. And I figured, one in particular, my first trip to Ghana, with all the things that I learned about the history of that nation, the interconnectivity of Black folks organizing around anti-imperialism, anti-colonialism, anti-segregation or desegregation, but these concepts that I was learning in 2022 and 2023, I immediately felt like they had to be platformed and communicated and organized around. And I remembered, luckily, that like I have a great pen and that I could put all of that into music and be inspired and energized and challenged by it.
I'm glad you said that, and because you rapping on here.
There's no lines wasted.
No, you rapping it, no lines wasted, and the cadences. What impressed me most, well, not most, but one of the things that impressed me is on the joint with Baby Chief Do It, is how you matched his cadence, bro. Yeah. Like, you went crazy on that joint.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Yeah.
No, I love that song. It's so funny. Drapetomania, I keep saying it, but I'm going to keep saying it. that was a song that like really is symbolic of my process of creating, where it's like I have to have the concept and sometimes the title before I start writing something, or I won't get anywhere. And so I knew I wanted to make a song around this crazy concept where I learned about this old diagnosis that they used to give to runaway slaves called drapetomania. And it's a pseudoscience and just a made up fake diagnosis, but it was believed that for any black person to believe that they were supposed to be free or liberated at that time, that they might have something fucked up in their brain. And so, medical science has always been weaponized and used as a tool of racism. And so I mentioned that throughout the album as well, but I think drapetomania was an idea that was so strong that it's been through 4 different beats. I would say at least 2, if not 3 different genres. And each of them were, amazing verses and amazing, writing but I kept flipping it until I knew that I could be happy with it. I think the best part about this album is that it's subversive and that you don't necessarily have to know all of the concepts or understand everything from I know what the Black Star Line is, I know who Marcus Garvey is, I understand the history of these connections, I understand these different regional, I spend a lot of time in different black communities all over the world. So there's a lot of NOLA in it, there's a lot of DC in it, there's a lot of New York in it, there's a lot of Ghana, a lot of Jamaica, and some of these things are placed so well in the songs that they're not the first thing that you think about. And I think like that's my favorite thing about the album, is that it's very like cooked in there. So when you hear diamonds on my birthstone, sometimes it snows in April. If I get the lighting right, I'm shooting out a rainbow coalition. All you hear is rainbow. You don't hear rainbow coalition until later. And so I feel like this album is gonna take time for people to like let it bake in and almost brainwash you, and then you hear it, and once somebody learns what drapetomania is, then they go back to the song and they hear, back and bigger, I straight up told that piggy can't make me do nothing but die. And it's like, maybe this is all having to deal with the title more than it has to deal with the feeling. But the feeling is there, so at least you want to hear it a bunch of times, and that will let people unravel it.
This is beautiful. Chance, congratulations on dropping an amazing album.
Thank you, brother.
We really appreciate what you do.
Thank you, man.
In this industry. Continue doing it and keep repping the crib the way that you do.
I appreciate you, man.